Bouchard with Illumify Media, and I am here with one of our very special authors, Suzanna Price. Suzanna is a Colorado epilepsy advocate, an author, and a mom. Suzanna, welcome.
Thank you, Karen. So happy to be with you today.
And I am just so excited to be talking to you about your book and about your story. So tell us a little bit about what happened, about your diagnosis and how all this came about.
So when I was 19, I was in a very bad rollover accident where I had a severe head injury and a massive seizure. And I was put on some epilepsy medication for a short time. And I kind of thought that was the end of it because I seemed to stabilize and everything looked good. And then 4 years later, the seizures started again. So now I had a long-term condition to deal with, and now I had to look it in the face and say, this is going to be part of my life, and how do I deal with it?
Wow. So you wrote this book and you share your just absolutely powerful story in the pages of this book. Tell me a little bit about why you wrote this book.
I wrote it primarily for people suffering with chronic conditions, epilepsy, but other long-term conditions that really are so heavy to bear, but cannot be seen by others. So I wrote it, to share my journey of hope and how I was carried through, and to perhaps inspire others to keep pressing on in their own trials. Yeah.
So when someone finishes your book and they close the cover for the last time, how do you want them to be different? How are they going to be different?
I want my readers to feel renewed and empowered, to be re-energized and to push onward, because living with a long-term condition is trying and it is tiring, and it starts to weigh heavy on you, heavy on your mind and heart. So I want people to feel and to be reminded that their burden can be lifted.
And I love how in the book, at one point, you actually list and talk about specific steps that you took to overcome, to not get under your circumstances,
Right.
to persevere, and
Right.
give the reader just some really wonderful encouragement about the things that they can do as well.
Right.
As you went through this experience, did you ever struggle with depression?
Oh, definitely. I battled that demon off and on over the years. And I used to have an outlook that I shouldn't take medication for it, because for one thing, I was already on so much medication for my seizures. But I drastically changed my outlook on that. If an antidepressant keeps you functional, then there is nothing wrong with that. And I certainly did. Like I said, I came to a new outlook of that. And I sought out help from some professional counselors, and that really helped me too.
How did this experience impact your life on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, the biggest challenge was transportation, because I couldn't drive for 16 years. And finally, I had to come to grips with, if I wanted to relieve some of the stress of the trying to work the bus timing and figuring out when I needed to be somewhere, it was just to let people help me who said they would help me. And again, that was humbling.
So you really had to let go of a feeling of control of your own life. That sounds like that was huge.
That was huge. And it was in baby steps, and it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back, of learning to let go and to be vulnerable and to feel needy. I felt so needy, but I found that, the people who offered me help, they said it blessed them as well, which always surprised me. And it always gave me joy when they told me, look, I like to do this for you. It brightens my day. So that was fantastic.
So Suzanna, when someone struggles with a chronic illness or a long-term illness, it impacts much more than just their life. The whole family is impacted. What kind of impacted what you were going through? How about your husband?
Oh my goodness. Well, Wayne was, he was my solid rock. He came to every neurology appointment with me, so I was never alone. I had that second set of ears that I needed. Occasionally I would use the recorder on my phone. That's handy too to want, but I think just the having another person who loves and cares for you sitting right beside you, it goes a long way. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you are a woman of faith. So tell me, how did this impact your faith?
You know, I was really forced to reckon with what I'd always thought was true about God and what I believed about a loving, caring, compassionate God. Because if this is the God in whom I believe, then where is his compassion? Where is his healing hand? Where is his touch on my life during all of this? So, I mean, I prayed through it. I let God know I was angry. I know he's a big enough God to take it. And I prayed the Psalms, so many Psalms. And I just cried out my heart, and I wrote and I wrote. And all of my writing ended up being part of this book. But I guess what I came to learn on a deeper level was that as a believer, it's really not about the why. It's really about to what end. In other words, God, how could this be used to glorify you and to love on others and to touch them, and perhaps, you know, to grow me as well as a person and in my faith and in my heart. And so that was really a big part of my struggle of faith. And ultimately too, I think one of the big lessons that the Lord taught me, and I wrote about this too, was learning contentment. Contentment doesn't mean happy, and it doesn't mean everything's going my way, but I can rest in God's arms. And that is what I learned to do. Content just to be where I'm at, and to know I'm being held, and that he goes before me and behind me.
And what really struck me, Suzanna, about your story is that at the same time that you were dealing with this, you were also dealing with infertility. And so there was kind of like this double-edged thing going on in your life where you were time and time again having to come back and talk to the Lord about everything that was going on in your life. I so loved the transparency as you shared some of your prayers and some of your journal entries, and sometimes you were frustrated with God and or just hurting and going to him with that pain through both of these challenges that were going on in your life. Now, initially, you were really adamant, right, that you were not going to look at brain surgery as an option. What changed your mind?
I kept coming back to, well, what are the advancements? Because there was always something new coming around the corner in neurology. And my doctor was fantastic, telling me, look, there's this procedure, or there's this one. And then my neurologist told me about the laser ablation. And that was quite new as well. And it was something that looked like a true possibility for me. So suddenly now the idea of brain surgery wasn't quite so terrifying. So I had to sort of ease my way into that new mindset. But I got there gradually.
And you make such a great point about the technology and what medicine can do, constantly developing and evolving and changing. And so the importance of hanging on to hope. I know that there were days for all of us, right? Whatever we're going through, there are days when we don't hang on to that hope, when we do feel hopeless, we feel like this will never end. But to find ways to continually transition ourselves out of that mode of thinking and hang on to hope.
my hope is my grounding. I am grounded in my faith. So I have a foundation. I refuse to live in fear, is what it came down to for me, because it was quite terrifying to think about the next seizure coming around the corner. And I just couldn't do that. Couldn't live that way. I knew this, I just knew I was being carried.
So what does your future look like?
Oh, I think, I will keep sharing my story because it's too good not to share. It's too good. I mean, I'm coming up now on 3 years since the brain surgery. And so every time I call it my brain birthday. I hope to do some more writing and some speaking, and wherever God leads. I'm definitely open to anything. I've learned to never say never. So I'm excited.
Well, Suzanna, I'm excited for you, and I'm so excited about this book and your story and your message, really of hope and inspiration and information. I mean, there's a lot of great information in your book as well that you share as you are going through these two challenges, 16 years, of struggle with these challenges. And I'm just so grateful that you shared a bit of your story with us today. So thank you so much, Suzanna.
Thank you, Karen. It's a delight to be here with you.